everyone, it's Lexi, and welcome back to another episode of the 20 Effect. I'm so happy that you're here because today I have a very special guest. This girl, seriously, she's one of the coolest people I know, but two, also just one of the kindest, most genuine people. And so please welcome Kinsey Vollendorf, newly Vollendorf, to the podcast.
Yes. Hi guys, I'm Kinsey and I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, so Kinsey and I met, like my other kind of guest, through GCU. We actually met through BK, who was on my first official episode of the 20 Effect. BK and I were sitting, grabbing coffee, and I was just kind of telling him how I was really just looking for friends in Arizona and just like really great people. And he was like, you and Kinsey would get along. And I was like, oh, like, who's Kinsey? And he said, you were a softball player at GCU and that you went to OU. And I was like, wait, show me your Instagram. So he sent me your Instagram and I like recognized her just through mutual friends that we have. And I was like, oh my gosh, so cool. I like DM'd her, we grabbed coffee, and that first kind of coffee that we grabbed, we kind of talked about what we're talking about today. I'm super excited about the topic we're talking about today. I think it really just applies to a lot of people in their 20s and what they're going through. So yeah, welcome to the pod. Excited to have you here.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Do you kind of want to start just telling people a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma, and I had this big dream to go to the University of Oklahoma. And so playing sports my whole life, I had the opportunity to do that. And so I went to the University of Oklahoma, spent really 2.5 years. I actually graduated high school in December of 2018, and my freshman year was the spring of 2019. And so first full year of college softball happened in 4 months.
That's crazy.
And it was a whirlwind. And then, I was there for 2 more years after that. And then I transferred to Grand Canyon and finished out my senior year, 5th year, and I was a grad assistant last year.
Yes,
and so that's kind of how I ended up here. And then I met my now husband out here as well, and living in Arizona and loving life.
Yeah, so fun. Remind me, how did you and Fisher meet?
So we technically met at a late night event with a college ministry. He was at the University of Arizona. Okay. He had played college golf in Charlotte.
I did not know that. Yeah. That's so cool.
He played at Charlotte, and then the same time I transferred, he moved here. Okay. He kind of stopped playing golf, but went down and finished school at Arizona. His family all moved here in 2019. Okay, cool. Which is so crazy because I actually knew who his parents were. They were involved with the ministry that I was involved with at OU. And whenever I transferred to Grand Canyon, I had a girlfriend be like, hey, who you need to reach out to? And I was like, no, like, I don't know anyone in Phoenix. And she was like, the Vollendorfs. And I was like, I admire his mom so much. She's incredible and has had a huge impact in my faith before I even knew her and before I knew she had kids.
Wait, that's so crazy.
It's been so cool because she has a podcast and has written a book and just was involved in the same circle, being on staff with the ministry. Yeah. And so I reached out to her and got connected to her. She had nothing to do with us actually dating or anything.
That's so you knew her before you knew your husband.
I didn't even know she had a kid until
That's so crazy.
I know.
But so sweet at the same time.
So sweet. Because I was like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. Yeah. And I'd heard her speak at events and just admired her faith and her marriage even, and just was like, I want a marriage like that one day.
Oh,
so it's really crazy, full circle. But then me and a couple girlfriends at Grand Canyon went down to the University of Arizona for a late night event on a Tuesday. Yeah. And we met for the first time there. Okay. And so that's technically where we met. Okay. And then we got to know each other over the summer, that next summer, through a discipleship program that I was involved with in college.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah. And you guys got married in April, right?
April.
So exciting. So, how has newlywed life been?
It's been so fun. Good. It's felt like the sweetest gift from God.
Oh, really. That's so sweet.
Just awesome.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. I want to talk a little bit about your time at OU and then transferring to GCU. So Kinsey, when I say she's one of the coolest people I know, she played softball, college softball, one at an incredible, two both incredible universities for softball for sure. But then two, I remember it was last summer around June, I had found out that she had written a devotional in this devotional book called Beyond the Game, right?
Yes.
I'm reading it right now. I should know the title. But I just remember seeing that and being like, this girl is literally so cool and she is just so down to earth and so kind. I remember she invited me to Easter, my like first year out here. I actually got to meet Fisher while they were dating. And that was just like so kind and so sweet and so genuine, just like getting to know you a little bit more. But in her devotional, do you kind of want to talk about that a little bit? Just like the devotion that you wrote. Obviously you wrote it kind of a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, it was probably about 4 years ago that I wrote that.
That's crazy.
Which feels crazy because like just the time of processing it and getting it out. I think I had written what I wrote in 2021.
Yeah.
And it was all about your identity being in Christ and not in your sport.
Yeah.
And I just remember coming to like terms with that in college where I was like, wait, I have put all of my identity in my success in my sport, and I'm empty basically.
Yeah.
And so I wrote that devotional really hoping that people would just stop and like check their heart and be like, what am I actually putting my identity in? Because it's easy to say and it's easy to be like, oh yeah, my identity is in the Lord or it is in my sport, but we don't want to confess that and actually turn from it. It's just like, well, it's part of what I'm doing right now. It's what I've dreamed of my whole life. And it's not bad.
Yeah.
But if it's not the first thing, like being the Lord, it's like you're missing it and you're still going to be unsatisfied. And so that was kind of my heart behind writing the page I did because that had impacted me so much in my college years.
Yeah, for sure. When did you notice that shift? Because I think a lot of athletes and just like people in their 20s in general go through this shift of like, where is my identity? I think sometimes it happens when people like either get to college or even graduate from college of just kind of figuring out, okay, who am I now outside of my hometown, outside of my parents, my family, where I grew up. I remember for me, like my Bible study leader throughout college he was a college athlete as well. And he just always said like, your identity isn't in your sport. And I was like, yeah, I know it's in Jesus. But then I didn't truly understand that concept until after I had graduated and like was no longer a college dancer and then just felt this like emptiness. It sounds like from what you've described that kind of happened for you throughout college. When did you notice that shift or when did that kind of come about for you?
Yeah, I feel like there was many moments in my life where that all alluded to me being like, whoa, my identity was completely in softball. So I felt like, I think of the verse that's like, taste and see that the Lord is good. And it wasn't until I actually tasted and saw that the Lord was good for me to reflect and be like, whoa, all of my identity really was in my sport.
Yeah.
Whether it was conversations, it always kind of came up. You're kind of playing for the best softball team. Like everyone's asking you about it. And your world really, it feels like it revolves around your sport because it kind of does. Like 24/7, 7 days a week. Like that's what you're doing. You're training, you're eating, sleeping, lifting, training with all these people. And yeah, I feel like, you know, in high school, I was really known for like this good girl, good reputation, good family, great softball player. Like my small town was really good. So everyone knew our softball team too. And so it was just like, this feels good to get like some praise for it.
For
and
sure.
then you're going to like the best university. So like kind of everyone's talking about it and it just feels so normal until you're in it and you're like, this is hard. This is a grind, which you still have that light where you're like, but this is what I've done my whole life and what I've dreamed of. It's great.
Yeah.
And I met some girls outside of my sport that I remember being like, you have joy that I don't have. You have something different that I crave, that I just keep waking up empty. I'm living this life in the softball world where honestly you can have both. You can say you're following God, you can show up at church, but let's go party. Let's go, just not follow the Lord during the week. Really like never talked about it, just would practice hard, party on the weekends, get up and repeat. And it was like, this is the college life everyone tells you about that you're supposed to do. And
and you're supposed to love, and it's normal.
Yes, like this is like you'll have your fun phase, and then when you get out, you'll figure out the faith thing.
For sure, yeah.
So I like definitely bought into that lie until I met those girls who really shared the gospel with me, and I was like hit with the weight of my sin for the first time, where I was like, whoa, like I don't actually understand that Jesus Christ is my Lord and not just my Savior. Like he is my Savior.
I love that.
But he has to have lordship over my life too. And for the most part, it was me just wanting praise from the outside for being known as a softball player or on the best team, or just seen like there's obviously a view that I wanted from people was to be like, yeah, she's the best, you know? And so, yeah, there was a lot of things in my life that I think impacted me to see that. Yeah. And then walking with God over the years, it's been like, oh my gosh, like I was really like wrapped up in that identity. But when I started following the Lord, everything changed, and softball was still part of my life, but it wasn't ultimate. So
yeah, which is so cool. I think when you're able to come to that conclusion of like, okay, both can exist at the same time. Totally. Like I can still love this gift that God has given me, but not put it as the ultimate like king of my life. Yes. I listened to a sermon the other day, and it talked about like, what is the like king of our heart right now, and what are we putting above that? And so I think that's cool that you touch on like both things can exist. It's just, is one taking precedent over the other? And so, and it's so cool because you did win a national, not to brag about you, but to brag about you, like you did win a national championship with OU, which is like incredible. People dream about that. Right. And then to just hear like that this is such this incredible thing, but feeling empty at the same time, and having like something that you've always probably dreamed of, but still feeling like I feel like something's missing. And that is like such a cool testament of just like how much Jesus plays into our life, and how much he needs to be in our life, and how fulfilled we are with him. But yeah, how was kind of that transition going from OU to GCU? Did you start to find your identity in Christ while at OU, and then was able to take that into your time at GCU?
Yeah, I was able to take it into GCU. So I really started following the Lord in the summer of 2020. Okay. And so kind of like backstory, but my freshman year was at 2019 spring. Yeah. My sophomore year, I was playing in the outfield, so not the position I usually play. Okay. Started to have some arm injuries.
Gotcha.
Not great. Yeah. Was like, dang, this was the year to play, but now it's not. And what is happening? And then COVID shut everything down. And I was like, I could breathe. And like right around that time, right before COVID hit, was when I had met those girls who were sharing their faith with me. Yeah. And I was just really drawn to that. And I went to a winter conference. That's actually where I heard Kent Fisher's mom speak for the first time. Oh, wow. So I heard her speak for the first time before. Cool. And then I went to a 9-week discipleship program that summer. Okay. So that's when I really started taking my faith serious. I feel like God really used that to shape me and to grow me, to grow conviction for me and my heart for him, and had people around me that community just was like so evident, and it was so sweet. And so 2021 was really hard. Came back and still fighting through injury, finally get cleared in the spring, and then had emergency appendicitis. Oh my gosh. So then I had emergency surgery, came back to like the last end of the weeks. And so as I was like navigating a shift of moving, I definitely had a stronger faith going into transferring, but I definitely had moments where I was like, what is about to happen? Like, God, I really just started trusting you. I really just grew this community. I love these people. Like, I considered quitting softball and just staying and like going to school. Like, I was just like so exhausted over the thought of leaving. And this was technically, it was before our season fully ended. Okay. When I was just praying through this and just was like, I'm done. Yeah. And God just kept showing up and being like, you know, I'm the provider. Like, you know, I'm the provider. Trust me. Like, I will keep providing. I will keep providing. And I was like, but I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know where these people are going. And so, like GCU was a huge answered prayer, but I did get to bring my faith into that transition. But it was a huge test of my faith, because I was like, am I following God because other people around me are, and I now have this community. Like, what's my heart in all of this? And so God really, I felt like tested me and refined me in that moment, but it was awesome.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I feel like there's a big part of that where like humbling comes in a little bit too, of like the Bible talks about like humbling ourselves before the Lord. And I think for me and like my experience, like getting hit with like humbleness and humility for the first time was like really, really hard when I was almost like forced to find my identity. And it's funny because I remember my senior year, all throughout college, I was like, I'm not going to be the girl that puts everything in a dance and like doesn't have outside things. So I like joined the newspaper and joined a sorority, like did all these other things. So dance wasn't like number one. But I remember senior year, my teammates like started to notice that a little bit, especially junior year. Junior year was like when we came back from COVID. And so it was just like a hard year in general. We didn't get to do much. And I remember they told me senior year, they were like, we need you to buy into dance the way you buy into everything else in your life. And so it's like, I feel like when I started doing that, I started to place it first, which was so great in the moment. But then it got to the point where it was like, it was my entire identity. And then also throughout that time with social media, like TikTok became a really big thing. And I kind of discovered like, oh, if I do like cute, silly dances in my uniform, it's going to get a lot of likes. And so placing a lot of my identity in that of like craving and wanting that attention, same thing that you kind of talked about, like being able to say that you like went to OU, like just this big thing, and you feel that love and that appreciation. And then it's like, when that is no longer a thing, it's like, whoa, I feel so lost. I feel so confused. And then it's like, you miss that. But then once you experience and like you said, like taste the joy that the Lord provides, it's like, I don't even like that. All is so gross to me now of like wanting attention from random people on the internet saying that I looked cute in my uniform or what, just like saying all these things. And so I think that's a big part of identity too, with like in social media, that I think a lot of people in our generation deal with, of like wanting this dopamine hit of a like or a notification or whatever. And so, kind of going off that, how did you feel like your relationship with Jesus started to shift once you did start to find your identity in him?
Yeah, it felt like when I was playing softball, sports related, I guess, I was on the team for me. Like, I was on the team for the team, obviously, but it was like, well, I want to start, I want to play, I want to have the most success. And I had friends, obviously, like girls on the team that I'm still close with, but my perspective was like, what everything I could get out of softball is what I wanted. And my relationship with Jesus before, like finding my identity in him, was just like praying when everything's really hard and then just like living life the rest of the week. And when I finally found my identity in him, like I viewed people differently. I viewed my teammates differently. Like my heart broke for them, for those who aren't following the Lord. And I was like, whoa, we're all missing it. Like I was missing it. Like instead of being like, what can I get out of this sport for me? It was like, obviously I want to perform well. It's okay to be competitive. It's okay to perform well. But ultimately, like, I don't want that to take over sharing my faith with these girls and loving them and serving them and following the Lord deeply and getting to know him and sit with him. So my relationship with Jesus was so much deeper since I put my identity in him instead of my sport and like what I could get from him. It was like, let me use this for your glory.
That's so cool. I think about like when you talk about that, just like the confidence that we get. How would you say like your confidence, like having, like the Bible talks about our confidence comes from the Lord, having that in your time at GCU playing softball?
It was so comforting because if I were to just base my life and my identity off of my stats, that is so shaky. Like, you're failing most of the time in softball.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking, like, you're just not gonna have success 24/7 all
Yeah.
the time. And so even to look back, like, I look back on the memories I had at GCU, and yes, we won. Yes, we kind of rewrote the history of GCU's softball, like so many incredible things. But more than that, I think of the girls who I would sit in the bullpen with and talk about God, or them just come up and be like, when you guys pray, like, I know you're talking to someone who's real. Like, I want to know who that is. So yeah, getting to like share the gospel with girls in the field, like remembering that my performance does not determine like who I am. And so you do have a lot more confidence. You walk away on a bad day and you're like, okay guys, what are we eating for dinner? Like, what are we doing now? Like, let's have fun and enjoy life. It's so short, and the Lord has brought so much joy. There's so much to be grateful for, instead of just dwelling on things that maybe happened that day at practice, or coach getting on to me, or, you know, just not having your best day, or even having a good day. It's like, okay, the Lord is still better, you know,
for sure.
So yeah, there's just a whole new confidence you have when you have your identity in Christ.
Yeah. I love hearing from like other athletes when they talk about that, because as a dancer, our sport is so different in the sense that we are dancing and cheering at these games. And like, yeah, if we make a mistake, like, okay, oh well, there's another game the next week. But when it comes to competition, like, we get one, if you make it to finals, 2 chances to like do this thing that you work so hard on for 6 months. And it's literally 2 minutes of your life that has to be absolute perfection throughout those entire 2 minutes. And if you mess up, you mess up the team. And so I remember like my junior year, we call them turners, but it helps us like turn on the floor, came off in the beginning of the routine, and I still had like 3 turn sets after that. And I remember I allowed that to eat me up for an entire year. And it wasn't until my coach like finally sat me down. And at this point, like, I wish I would have just had like the confidence of the Lord and known that my identity was in him. But I was just like such a perfectionist. And so it really took my coach sitting me down and just being like, Lexi, that was last year. You need to move on, and you need to like, and so I went into senior year being like, I'm leaving on the best note, and that is not going to happen. And I'm going to do everything possible. But it's so interesting to hear from other athletes of like, when you talk about in softball, like, you're failing a lot of the time. I guess it's just like such a quick turnaround of that kind of failure to then being able to fix it. How is that, like, that short-term kind of thing, and not being able to dwell on that? How has that kind of been just within your walk and your identity?
It can be hard, because if you do start dwelling on things, I think I actually struggled that a lot my 5th year. And it's like one of those where you're like, if I could just go back and fix this, I would have thought about things differently. Like, my fall was awesome. If I didn't, I just had trained myself really well and felt so confident in my fall. And I think this is a beautiful thing about different seasons, like in life and in general, like your sport, every season's different. Every game's different. It could change so fast. Your expectations can not be met or be like exceeded, you know, and you just don't know, but you can know what the work like you put in was. And the fall of my 5th year was like the best year I'd had, was feeling a lot of confidence, I felt like I had perfected like that short-term memory. Was like, didn't get a hit, I'll get it next time. Like, just my mindset was different, and had some hard things come up in the spring that started to deter me a little bit. And it just felt like I started still thinking about things that happened in the preseason, and that just greatly impacted my whole season. And so it could be such a great tool to like really focus on that. But I haven't done it perfectly. Like, I did it. It's like I did that good for a season, and then stuff happened in my life that was really hard, that just really emotionally got me, and that impacted a lot of my life, my 5th year, it felt like. But short-term thinking in the sport of softball is really good for you. Like, just forget it and keep moving on. It really doesn't matter. But when you dwell on it, it'll eat you up, just like you said. So I don't know if I have great advice there, but
No, that's great.
I'm like, just, it happened. Like, when I was like teaching and coaching the younger girls, I would try the best I could to be like, it happened and it's over.
Yep.
And move on.
Yeah.
Like, go compete. Because there's things that I wish I would have worked on in myself. So getting to pour that into others. But
yeah, that's so great. How was that kind of transition for you, going from being a like softball player on the team, being a 5th year, to then being the graduate assistant, like literally the year after, and being able to coach the girls that you were on the team and played with?
It was great. Because I worked with catchers. That was my position. So it was funny. I loved the girls I worked with and played with, and such a blessing, because even when I played, the younger girls, who are also catchers, just looked up to me and were like, tell me everything you know, like, help me be better. And I was like, I will do that. Like, I loved that one-on-one training. And so it felt like the like shift into grad assistant year coaching wise was great.
Okay.
But then it felt like, what is happening? I used to do life with these girls and now I don't. And so I think discipleship was like the hardest part for me, because I was like, I want to be there. I want to pour in more than just my sport. And obviously there's boundaries with that. And obviously I'm not living alongside them. And so
for sure,
that was like a hard change for me, because it felt like everything I had known, the girls I lived with, I'm not living with. They're still on the team. They're playing their 5th year now. I'm on the outside, but on the inside of the coaching staff. Like, it was an interesting dynamic, but such a gift coaching the girls I coached, because I love them all and they were amazing. But definitely a hard shift coming out of softball into like real world and on the other side of it, and discipleship. Yeah.
That's so cool. Do you kind of want to touch on and talk about like what you're doing now? Obviously we kind of talked about you like getting married and all that, but do you just kind of want to talk about your life now and how you're still like following the Lord and finding identity in Him, even like outside of your sport, but now into the real world too?
I feel like I'm still learning this too, because obviously I've only been out for about a year. I work for an insurance company and I love that. And it's been a blessing to me. The company's great. People are nice, but it is such a shift.
For sure. Whether 9 to 5 corporate job.
Yes. And so it's a hybrid job. Love that. And so time-wise, I love my schedule because I work from home twice a week.
There you go. That's great.
But a lot of the women, it's interesting because they're so good to me, but they're in their 40s. Like, they're a lot older than me. And so it's been fun to learn how to, like, connect and be a team with women who are my mom's age. Like, actually, like, they have kids my age.
Wow.
And so it has been an interesting shift in life, where I went from living with girls my age, doing life with, girls my age, getting to really pour in and share my faith with a bunch of girls. I mean, you have 20 something on a team. That's what it looked like, was riding around on pink scooters at Grand Canyon. And
I hear about that story all the time, the pink scooters.
Scooters. You go into that, and then real life. I mean, I'm married and working corporate job really, and it's been such a great transition for the season that I'm in, but such a different season too. So
for sure,
walking with God has been fun. It's been I have great community still. I'm doing a Bible study with a girl from back home, so we FaceTime every Wednesday.
That's sweet.
And that's been really fun. Hoping to this upcoming semester get into a young marrieds group or start one at our church, and so I'm trying to navigate that. But life just looks so different than it did when I was playing.
It does. And I think that's such a big thing about your 20s is just like navigating that life. One, post grad, but two, like post being an athlete too. And then when you're still kind of in it, I've talked to you. I don't know like what exactly my next chapter is. It could be in college athletics. It could be something else, but just still like being around that. I remember there was like a year period where I had graduated and I was doing choreo full time, traveling the world and the country and all those things. And then I jumped right back into it and started working in athletics again, and just remembered like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. And it just kind of like reignited my love and passion for dance. And so part of me is like worried to step away if I do again and all those things. But I think that's just a huge part is like navigating it, but knowing, I know so many people that I've talked to that are in jobs where the people they work with, they're the youngest ones there. Yeah. I think BK had like mentioned that. He's like, I'm a youngin' compared to everyone here. Yeah. And so it's just like, I feel like that's so normal. And I feel like that's something that we can normalize, but also something that I kind of talked about on my trailer episode of this podcast is like, there's so much wisdom in there that we can learn from those individuals on like, I remember I was even nannying and then I was living with my cousin and just watching like a family, watching a marriage, watching like helping raise children essentially, and just like gaining experiences and knowledge from that, I think is really cool. And a big part of our 20s of like, we have these chances to learn so much from the people that we work with and the people around us. So like soak it up. And I think it's cool that they see us as like wanting to give us advice too. And I think that is just like such a blessing of being able to be surrounded by those people.
Yeah. And I think it's like such a light to them in that world because, you know, not everyone you work with is going to be a follower of Jesus. And if you're a young person in your 20s sitting there asking them for advice or just getting to know their life a little bit, you know, I feel like they could see something different in you and be like, what is different about this young person? Why are they actually so nice to me and like so caring? And so that's like my hope in my job too, is that as I get to like know these people in my work, that they're like, oh, she's different, or there's a light about her, or just something to where it's like, you know, it might not be asking them to coffee and going and reading the Bible together, you know, like a lot of people I work with aren't believers. And so it's such a place to like shine your light for the Lord too. Yeah. And so it is interesting.
Yeah. But like so cool at the same time. And definitely like we're placed in those positions for a reason. Totally. So yeah. But I do kind of want to talk about like your married life. I think a lot of times what people do place their identity in is relationships. And then when those like dating relationships, when those kind of end, feeling like a sort of loss. And I think you and Fisher have like done everything. I don't know everything, but just from what I've seen, like so gracefully. Do you kind of just want to talk about that of like dating, pursuing each other, but still like trying to keep your identity in Christ and not in your relationship, and then transitioning that to marriage and being like, okay, we can't put our identity in this marriage too.
So I don't even know if you know this about Fisher and I, but he had asked me on a date in the fall, in September, like 2 years ago now. Okay. And I said no, because I was dating somebody else.
Oh my gosh.
And so he actually showed up to my door with flowers and my favorite cereal and asked me on a date. And I was like, I'm honored, but I am being pursued by somebody else right now.
Oh
and
my gosh.
So it was like, what just happened? I had a crush on him for years. Oh, no. Why is this happening to me? And so I remember just being like, I have so much peace right now. I don't know why. I have confidence that was the right decision. Anyways, like a few months later, I ended up breaking up with the guy that I was with. And then a few months after that, Fisher showed back up to my door and with flowers and my favorite cereal and was like, hey, I know I caught you at a bad time, but I'd still love to take you on a date. And so I feel like, I mean, he led so well. Yeah. And that completely helped like me not being completely like engulfed in like all the emotions and all of the excitement. Like those things were good things, but he just led with so much clarity on like setting boundaries and just leading me well, taking me on dates and telling me exactly kind of like where he was at. Yeah. Like, so it was like, it was hard to not be like only thinking about him, you know, or like being excited for when he was going to call me next or like come pick me up. And those are things to be excited about.
For sure.
But I feel like it wasn't until we like got engaged that I was doing all the wedding planning and I had felt for a little bit that my relationship with God felt dry. And I was like, why? Like everything in my life is so good right now. Like I kind of have everything I've been praying for. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I remember talking to Fisher about it, and I like started crying to him, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I feel like when I had moved back to Phoenix, everyone that I did life with was gone, is how it felt. And like my community. And I had girls that I lived with who are incredible. And still in my community now, but it was just like, change was so hard for me coming back and moving and not having like Kate and Ariel, like, you know, even in the same state, we had done everything together for like 3 years. So, and then I was getting a new job and like just figuring things out, and dating him was so good. And then while we were wedding planning, I listened to a podcast, and it really opened my eyes to where I was like, whoa, I'm starting to put our relationship and like even marriage like on a pedestal before the Lord. Like, I'm so focused on all the planning. I'm so focused on the excitement of getting married and all these things. And they're not bad things, but when they were becoming like ultimate in my life, and I was like, whoa, these need to be put back in their place. And so I think, it's just easy to feel like, as you have these desires of marriage, desire of a relationship, to think like, well, once I have that, I will be satisfied. And it's like, that is not true. It's the furthest thing from truth that you can have. And even in my relationship with Fisher, like, we're married, and like, he brings me so much joy, like so much peace. Like, he is like a rock to me. Like, I love him, and he's incredible. He leads me so well still, and he leads our marriage. And so I'm so grateful, but I'm like, at the same time, he's not my ultimate comforter, my ultimate healer, like my ultimate peace. And you daily have to remind yourself like of that, because you'll still be like, something's missing. And it's like, yes, because he is not supposed to be ultimate. It's like the Lord is like here, and everything, like, he pours into all these other areas. So it's like Fisher and I's life has been blessed and so rich because of the Lord, and because we've both sought after him ultimately, like first. And I know Fisher put so much prayer into so many things, and still does, and leads us in prayer. So I just feel like, it's so important to like not get so engulfed in each other where you're just like, this is the only thing. But it's like great to be in a marriage. It's a gift from the Lord and a treasure, and something I'm so grateful for. So it is like an interesting balance of being like, Lord, you're ultimate, I run to you. And now I have a best friend forever who will know me like so no one else will, that I get to do life with and do it together. Because like, you get married and you wake up and it's like, that was awesome. Nothing changed. Like, you know, you're married now. You can do life together. So
for sure,
it just doesn't satisfy like the Lord will, but it is a gift from the Lord.
I love that. That is so sweet. And just like getting to watch your guys' story, because I think you guys were newly dating close to Easter, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then just kind of watching like it grow from there, and then obviously like into your guys' marriage has been really sweet. But what are some things that you think or see people maybe put their identity in? We've obviously talked about sports and like relationships, but are there kind of other things that you maybe see people put their identity in that might not be fulfilling? Maybe for just like someone listening that might not even realize they're putting their identity in something that isn't going to fulfill them at the end of the day.
I mean, I think one that's easy too is like a career, I guess. That's one that I think of where in our society, you're so focused on how much money you can make, the success you can have, what your life looks like on the outside. And so I think we can put our identity in what we think people think about us. I feel like that's a good one.
That's a really good one.
Because it's like, whether it's like social media, like that's such a huge thing where it's like, what we think we should look like is what we're posting, or what we want people to see. And it's like, social media doesn't have to be bad, but if we care so much about what other people think, like it's just going to be empty still and miserable. So
it is for sure. I love that you brought that up, because in therapy the other day, my like therapist and I were kind of going through, I struggle so much with like control, and something that we were just kind of talking through, she like drew this diagram. It's called the circle of control or something like that. And pretty much there's like a smaller circle, and that's you, and that's what you can control. And then there's a circle outside of you of like things that are completely out of your control. And I realized in that moment that's something that, and maybe it's like part of an identity issue that I have or a heart issue, is like, I want to control the way that people think about me. I want to control what people say about me, what they like, how they speak about me.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's just something that is not up to us. And it's unfortunate because we want to control that. We want to control the narrative, but it's just something that we have to let go of and have to almost be at peace with, of just knowing like, that's something that is out of my control. I can control how I treat someone. I can control how I feel about myself. I can control the things that I say to myself. I can control the things that I say about other people, but ultimately I can't control what they're saying about me. I can't control how they're talking about me. I can't control what's being said in rooms that I'm not in. And so I think it's just like not putting identity in that. I think that's a good one that honestly I didn't even think of till you brought up, of putting your identity in what you want other people to think about you. Not necessarily what people think about you, but what you want other people to think about you. And then also, I think social media is a big one. Putting your identity, I know like influencers and like micro influencers are such a big thing, and almost trying to control that narrative of like what people think about you, what you want to show to people. I know that's something that I've really had to struggle with, especially like stepping away from not being a college athlete anymore. I swear this is so silly and so stupid, but like the minute I wasn't posting me in a uniform anymore, my likes went from like all these likes to like nothing. Now I get like a couple likes on a photo and I'm like, you know what? I like it. And that's what matters.
You're like, it doesn't matter.
Totally. But it's just like trying to take my identity from that, of like, I used to get so wrapped up in that, and so wrapped up in like what people thought. Oh, are people going to like this post? Are people going to like this story? Like, and that, it just doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't. And I think the sooner that we learn that, the better, because I feel like I found so much joy. I literally used to stress about how many likes I would get on a post. And I think it's not healthy, and it doesn't bring us joy. If anything, it like for sure raises my cortisol levels. Like, I'm just stressed out about it. So it's like how I feel like the minute that I was like, I'm just going to start posting for me. And if people don't like it, they can unfollow me, and that's okay. And so I think the minute that I started to take away my identity from that, but it's hard, like being brutally honest, like I'm still working on it. And I think a lot of us still are, there's things that feel so great in the moment that we want to put our identity in, because we get that like quick satisfaction. And then it's not sustainable.
No,
it doesn't sustain us for sure. But yeah, kind of going off that, what advice? So for someone who is like maybe listening to this and feeling like, oh, I have been maybe putting my identity in these things, what advice would you kind of give for those like the like first step of like not putting your identity in those things anymore?
I feel like first practical step is to read God's word. You know, you could start in the book of John and just watch Jesus' life unfold and really get to know who God's character is. That is the greatest thing you can ever do in general. And when you start to understand like who God says you are and really believe it, and not just be like, oh yeah, like I know I'm a daughter of the King. Like I know, it's like, no, do you know what that means? Like you are precious to God. Like you are valued to God. You are loved by God and seen by God. I think I felt a lot. I felt very unseen just by people. And God was like, I see you. Like I see you, I hear you. And really let that take root in your heart. I think you need people next to you to encourage you in your faith. Because whatever your identity is in, it's like nothing will compare to knowing God. And so if you don't know what that looks like for you, if you don't have friends around you, it's like, okay, let's like reading the word is like the easiest step, and getting plugged into a church, obviously, but really find time and make it worth it to know who God is.
And I think it's funny. I actually listened to the episode that you did with your mother-in-law.
Yes.
And I think it was right before you guys were getting married. I can't remember exactly,
Yes.
but literally you said something and I swear it'll stick with me for like ever. You were just kind of talking about your singleness and asking like, God, are you enough? And are you enough that I could be single for the rest of my life? And like, would you still fulfill me? I think that applies to like identity too.
Totally.
I think it's okay to question, like, God, are you enough? I know I'm dealing with that right now, like in my singleness and with like identity too of like, okay, God, I know you're enough. Like I do know that, but like, I almost want to be like, can you like show me? Like, how can you show me? And so I think it's okay to ask like, God, are you enough? Because that's the start of kind of figuring out that we know he is.
Yeah.
But just finding like real security in that of knowing he's enough to sustain me. And at the end of the day, like I don't need these things. I don't need these things to fulfill me because he can be enough and he is enough. And so I think it's cool that you bring that up because when you talked about that and I listened to it, I was like, Kinsey, that is so good. I'm like, I'm going to remember that forever of like, it's okay to question if he is. And that's like the start of knowing that he is for sure.
And I feel like being real with God in prayer, being like, God, I know you're enough, but right now I don't believe you're enough. I need your help.
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy to be like, well, I know these things are true and I just don't want to confess it. But it's like, God says, confess and you'll be healed. Like, confess your sins to one another. Ask for help. You know, I have mentors in my life that I confess sin to and have gotten to talk through life with that have helped me a ton in like remembering my identity. But yeah, like, God, are you enough if it's just me and you forever? Because like, even when you get married, like God still has to be enough for you and ultimate for you. Because like, your marriage won't fulfill you and satisfy you. Like I think people believe you get married and then everything kind of pans out in your life. And it's like, no, that's definitely like what I used to believe. And I had people tell me that like, hey, it's not going to satisfy. And like, I really was trying to understand it as much as I could before dating and before getting married. But even being married, I'm like, yeah, like it's the greatest gift. It is incredible gift from the Lord. But at the same time, like the Lord is the one who fills me with joy. And Fisher brings a lot of joy to my life, but God fills me. And so that has been a sweet thing to learn. And so as someone who's married, I'm like telling people, I'm like, do not place your identity in a relationship or desire for a relationship because
that's a good one too.
Is good. But once the Lord meets that need too, like if that's what he has, it's like you will still have this yearning for more if that's the only thing you're focused on.
Yeah. So if you could go back and tell younger Kinsey, like, just advice that you would have for her about rooting yourself, like your identity in Christ, what would you kind of tell her?
I feel like I would remind her of truth that God sees you. Like I was learning that, and that God had his best for me. Because I think I still believed, like, I'm like, okay, God, I know you have your best for me. I know you see me. But now living in so many answered prayers, I'm like, you really have your best for me. Like, even when I thought I knew what was better for me, whether it was like the place I was transferring to, the guy I was going to marry, like, just the friends I would have and the place I would live in my 20s. Like, I never thought I would be living in Arizona, married to the man I'm married to, with the friends that I have around me. I just felt, at OU when I was in the middle of that change, just like I had no idea what the next steps were. I had no idea what God could have for me. And so I would just remind myself, like, he does actually have the best for you and you should really trust him more. Because I was trusting God, but it's like, you know, you get through something, you're like, why didn't I just trust you more? Why did I worry about this?
For
like,
sure.
You tell me not to worry. But it's still in my nature to kind of worry about things. And so I just wish I could sit and be like, it is going to be okay. God really has his best for you and you can trust him.
I love that. That's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and just like providing so much wisdom and speaking so much truth. And Like I've said, I'm like a big fan of yours. I'm like, and you are just the sweetest, kindest human and just so genuine and so awesome. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
And thank you for even just like hosting this and
of course.
being a vessel for people. I think it's amazing to see how you've just been faithful with the desire that God's given you, because I remember talking through this podcast before it was here.
Yeah,
so
seriously, back in like
incredible.
Easter, I think.
Yes.
In like spring of 2024 was when I like first kind of got the idea for it. So the fact that we're here like a year and a half later is crazy.
So crazy.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. And well, thank you guys so much for listening or watching this episode. For more content, you can check out the 20 Effect podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And I just want you to remember that no matter what you're going through, we're in this together. Bye, y'all.